Hey everybody, Drew Richardson here with ASR Miniature Art for another event review. Today we're going to be talking about the Kings of War event, Samurai Showdown, the Dojo GT by the Dojo Club down in Dallas. It's ran by Aaron Chapman and a great handful of other people that help coordinate it and set it up and run it and help us players get involved. It's a Kings of War tournament for 2,300 points. For those that don't know, Kings of War is a rank and file game that I play. It's a fantasy miniature game. Really enjoy it. And this tournament was just this last weekend here in September, at the end of September. And I went down there. I've gone every year for a few years now. Had a lot of fun with it. To kind of tell you just a little bit about what the event is itself, is that it's a samurai ninja themed event. We are playing with just like the standard Kings of War rules. They did allow allies, which is something that we typically don't see a lot in Kings events, or at least we haven't lately. And they also brought some historical units back, specifically some of the I can't remember which army or whatnot, but there were a few that they specially allowed and published for us to use if we wanted to. So if people wanted to do like all samurai armies and stuff with actual like samurai units, they could. So yeah, it's a pretty good event. It's a solid time. We had 34 people there. Each of us get a samurai. In addition to our 2,300 point list, we have a samurai model that we get to play with. It's just a pretty good melee beat stick and kind of a hero hunter unit, and both players get one. In addition to that, there's a few other things. So the event's actually, now the more I think about it, a little different than a lot of just. It's not a lot of stock rules, but it all flows really well. It's really well done. So the things to note are that it has allies allowed. There are some historical units. It does player placed terrain. So what that is that we have, I think, 12 pieces of terrain or something. I don't remember exactly. Some of the tables had one or two, maybe give or take, and different. And you roll off to take turns placing terrain down, and you have to place them apart from each other. I think they have to be 6 inches apart, or I think it was 6 inches, maybe it was 12 from another piece of terrain. And so it's a really good system for kind of helping both players decide how the table's going to look. Now, in addition to the player placed part, there's also a special terrain piece in addition to all of this called the Torii Gate. The Torii Gate terrain piece is designed to where an individual inside of it basically just can't be targeted. You have to go with your own individual into the Torii Gate to fight them. And it's treated as impassable for everyone else. They can see through it. It doesn't block line of sight. But the only people that can actually like move into it and out of it are individual models. And if like your samurais both go into it, they have to duel and stuff. If your samurai ever gets charged by, I think anything, it might just be individuals. I can't recall. They have to charge back. So yeah, there's a unique samurai character we could get, and like the good aligned armies got, I think it was Elite and Iron Resolve, and then the neutral armies got Regeneration and Ensnare, and the bad aligned armies got Life Leech 2 and Vicious, in addition to the standard samurai profile that we all shared. Now, with that, we have the samurai, the allies, the player placed terrain. There's also every turn or every round of the event, so every game you play, we had a samurai card, like an objective card. And so I think there was like 10 or 12 to pick from, and essentially you both pick one kind of secretly, and then say one of them was messenger, which is I'm trying to get my samurai to end the game in your deployment zone, and I get a point. If I can get him to touch the enemy table edge, I get an additional point. And so I think there's whoever ends up going first has to pick first and reveal it, and then the opponent can kind of counter it a little bit. So one of them was like Kaiju Slayer, which is have your samurai kill a monster or titan by themselves. And so yeah, and then the other ones that were to note is like one of them was like just have your samurai survive. Another one was there's a ninja option, which gives you a different profile. There's a ninja profile. It's faster and a little more deadly, but it's softer. It can't take a hit as well. And the ninja, you use these once per tournament. Like you get them once. The ninja is the only one we could use again. So you could, and the ninja mission was basically kill enemy heroes. So you could just say, screw it, I'm going to go kill enemy heroes the whole time and get a bunch of extra points that way. So it's a lot of fun. It was really neat, and I had a lot of fun with it. It's like this every year. There's tweaking and stuff. Like last year, it wasn't just individuals that could go into the Torii Gate. I think a lot of people didn't like that. I think this was a really good change. I think having the Torii Gate only allow individual units inside was very awesome. And then also the Torii Gate used to have to be placed on the center line. Now it can be placed anywhere, not in a deployment zone. And I think that is also a really good change because I think it added a lot of strategic positioning, at least for me, when I was placing terrain, to be like, okay, I'm going to put it on this far side in a corner, and then I'm going to try to deploy on the opposing side so I can have my samurai run down the side and get messenger, because if he can get to that Torii Gate, he's going to pretty much guarantee at least 1 point by just last turn moving into their deployment zone and not dying, right? Or maybe it's one where it's like samurai just has to survive. I'd be like, okay, cool, I'm going to pick the side with the Torii Gate because I can just move into it and not die. Anyways, I feel like it was a lot more strategy for the terrain placement, and I think that's really cool. I think that was the aim, and so I like that a lot. Also, it doesn't feel like as much of a waste. When you have to put it on the center line, it's almost like I didn't even want to get the first drop of terrain. So I think this change is good because it's a third building essentially for everyone that isn't an individual. So it's pretty powerful impact if you and I want that freedom to be able to abuse it a little bit more. So anyhow, I'm going to kind of just go over some brief pros and cons, and I've got them noted here on my phone. And then also I'm going to go through each of my games, and of course, just like always, I'll have pictures up of my games and events and stuff, or the event itself and stuff as we go along, and we'll see kind of what happens here. So I think let's go over the negatives first, and I just like with all my reviews, this is just me being totally honest. This is my opinion, just how I felt about the event as a whole, and I don't think that this ever really gets across as personal, but that just again to reiterate, that's not my goal. I think the event is overall pretty solid, and I love Aaron Chapman to death. He does he puts a lot of passion into the event. He makes it really well themed. I was even telling him about that. It is not super over the top to where it's complicated and annoying, but it's a really good sweet spot of theme and extra rules, and I think some events miss the mark of getting that, and some events hit the mark too hard. And so I think he's got a really well defined pocket of special rules he wants, and the event feels fun and feels very thematic, and I like that a lot. And I think the Samurai is probably one of my favorite event minis that I get to play with, and it also is a really awesome hobby opportunity because even if you're not playing an army like that has a samurai aesthetic, you can have one, and I like that a lot. I like that opportunity. I think that's really fun. I just one of our club mates, Lance, picked up my undead from me, and so this is actually my last year to use my own samurai, and I ended up giving it to him. So I'm gonna have to get another samurai ready for the next time I go to dojo. So or samurai showdown, I should say. So the negative stuff though is the team immunity for the event. A lot of tournaments do team immunity for 2 or 3 rounds, the first 2 or 3 rounds. It was over after round 1, and it's not like that in itself is an issue. And I ended up playing one of the guys I rode down with turn 2 or game 2. I played against Andrew Minton, and we had a Varangur mirror match. We've played before, wasn't super exciting, and I get it. That's not necessarily a negative by itself. But it's still something that like I don't prefer. I would rather not have to play anybody on my team until day 2, whenever all the like impactful scoring is everybody. We've established now. Here's the people at the top and here's the people at the bottom, right? Because by the end of the day, if you're a 3-0 and you're dodging a club mate on round 4, that's not okay either. So I would have liked round 2, round 3. I mean, I could even understand just doing 2 rounds, right? But I think 2 to 3 rounds, 1 round wasn't enough. And in the same vein, with that, there were some questions about, we had one of our club mates play two of us, and then there were some other people who asked to be swapped around, and they got swapped around because they didn't want to play each other, and they were near the top, going into round. I think it was three, or no, it was round four. It was day two, round four, and they swapped them around on request. If that's going to be an option, I think it needs to be vocalized more, because I definitely know that my clubmates and I would have preferred not to have played each other, and I guess maybe shame on us for not asking. Um, but I don't. We just figured that wasn't an option. It was in the rules that we had to play each other, and so I don't really also look at that as a favorable call to let people just swap, especially that late into the event. If you're both and they're especially with them also being near the top, if they were both like dead last place, I mean, who cares? They're not. I mean, they're not going to race to the top. But they were both near the top of the event, and they got to kind of dodge each other. Um, if it's round 4 and 5, like you can't. I don't think you can fix pairings. I don't think that's okay. So, and again, I mean that's just I'm calling it like I see it there, and I'm just wanting to be totally transparent with you guys because, again, a lot of these videos are to me to give information to you guys so you can help decide if you think an event is worth it. I've been doing this from the beginning with all of my events, just trying to be as honest and open about everything. And because none of this is impacting my decision really to go next year or not. This has nothing to do with that. I mean, if I'm going to go, I'm going to go, right? And I mean, especially with it being in Dallas, it's so close. The only thing that would really impact it for me is with the unfortunately Masters is in the same month next year, or very close with it. So that might be the only reason I wouldn't be able to make it. But I'm still looking at it as an option. It's always going to be on the table. So none of this is impacting my decision. But maybe you guys that are a little further away, like I want you to have this information handy so that way, let's say you are a guy who comes up from Nebraska with you and one other guy and y'all have to play each other round two. Are you going to be okay with that? Anyhow's it. Enough of that. The other thing, and this is not event related per se. It has nothing to do with the games or the tournament organization or anything. But the venue is kind of cheap. No, that's not the right word for it. They feel cheap. Like it's a great quality venue. In fact, it sucks because the game space itself is phenomenal. I don't think I've ever, and it's the same one we have every year. We've used this venue for years now. The game space, I don't think I've ever been into a game hall where it was that air conditioned and that felt that cool. The only place it was colder anytime I was down there in the area was when I was in my hotel room. And that's a smaller space at probably still 10 degrees cooler, but they kept it really nice and cool. It was really well ventilated. I didn't feel greasy or sweaty really at all when I was playing my games, and I love that. I think that is a pro. So sorry to jump the rail here, guys, on our organization. That was definitely a pro. But the con is the rest of the venue, the rooms are fine, the game room is fine, but they don't serve breakfast. It's like $30 for breakfast. They charge you, I want to say they said it was $16 a day for parking. And the parking spots, we could barely fit our truck that we took into any of these parking spots. We had to, every time we had to get stuff in and out, when we were coming back and forth from somewhere, we had basically unloaded the truck like at the curb and then went and parked it because we knew we weren't going to have space to get stuff out, or we'd have to park forever away. And then at that point, why am I paying for parking? Then to add to that, because parking is such a hassle, you're basically encouraged to walk everywhere, and it's blistering hot outside. And only things within walking distance is there's like Chipotle. I hate Chipotle. A Starbucks. I'm not eating Starbucks for every meal. A restaurant called Texadelphia, which used to be really good. They have since last year changed their menu entirely, and even Lance, who is one of the least pickiest eaters I've ever met, was like, I'm having a hard time finding something I want to eat on this menu. Very, very big letdown because that place used to be awesome. It used to chicken fried steak, all sorts of amazing salads. I don't think I've ever wanted to eat a salad in my life, and I'd order a salad every time. And so, I mean, you guys know me. I'm salads just to get the metabolism going, right? Um, so that was a letdown. The only other places to go were In and Out, and which whatever, In and Out's fine, and Raisin Cane's, which again, yeah, it's fine. They're both very greasy, and they're also the furthest places to go. I think they're like 2 mile walks, something like that. They're like I think 2 stoplights away. So I mean, like, it's just, and it's hot. It's hot as balls out there, and so we basically had to walk anywhere we wanted to eat. I ended up actually going through it and then and grabbing the truck keys and going by myself to McDonald's and sneaking away once. But it's just like that's a slog. The location of the venue is rough because there's nowhere to go to eat and stuff unless you're wanting to drive, and driving sucks because the parking sucks, and then the hotel itself is kind of like this. It feels like they're nickel and diming us super hard the whole time, and that's just not. I don't like that. I think it's like we're paying to be here and we're not getting really any perks other than our room. Maybe I'm spoiled, but if I'm able to get a better service somewhere else, then that's kind of a problem to me. Anyways, so with that, the other things that were kind of brought up that I talked to some of my club mates as we were on the way home, because we were actually real. I mean, and again, we were struggling. That was the one we talked about the most. To be fair, was the venue, because we had to. That was the thing that impacted us the most, because we had to eat. We have to go somewhere, and it sucks too because the hotel has two branches in it, and there's one that has breakfast for free, and the other one's like $30, and we can't ever get in. It's like, why? That makes no sense. So we were struggling really though to find stuff. The only other ones that we had discussed were the ninja being used every game seems a little overpowered for some armies. Um, it felt like the ninja was just better than the samurai a lot of times. And if you are only bringing a couple sources of inspiring, that's how it gets its points, is killing inspiring units. You're in a world of hurt. And so, like, the ninja with Night Stalker army, oh, it's amazing. You can't ninja me because I don't have any inspiring other than the ninja. And we're good to go, right? Sweet. I'm going to just kill all your dudes. And the other one to discuss was, and again, these are all really personal things. We had a lunch on day 2, despite there being some vocalization of wanting to skip it. On day 2, I would rather skip lunch most of the time. We also had a shorter lunch too, so it was like, okay, if we're gonna have a shorter lunch, just don't give us a lunch at all. Just let us play through and go home earlier. So that was something as well that was discussed, was people wanting to just skip lunch and go home earlier, basically, like play round 4 and 5 immediately and then scoring. So that was really all the bad stuff. The pros to me was I like the concept of player placed terrain. I definitely need to practice it more, and I definitely don't think that I would win in every event, but it was a fun little brain exercise of like, oh, well, how can I manipulate the board to be, what does my army want? And then I'm also having to counter my opponent's stuff. And I don't think I lost a single game because of terrain placement. Not that I saw. I felt like it didn't ruin the game at all. So I thought that was really neat. The samurai and the cards overall are freaking awesome. I love it. I have so much fun playing the samurai hero. I think he's really cool. I think this is the best he's ever been. Like, Aaron, if you ever see this, keep the samurai like it is right now. I loved all the mission options. Loved playing with the samurai. I cannot recall, as of time of recording, a single time I've enjoyed playing the samurai this much. So I really enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun with it. So that's the pros and cons. The event overall was fantastic. Had an absolute blast with it. Headaches aside, it was just the minor speed bumps. Nothing really just atrocious, making us want to leave immediately. And so, with that, I'm going to talk about each of my games. So game 1 was against Robert Zimmerman, who was playing Forces of Nature, and he had actually challenged me. Oh, and that was something else, is that the event does a haiku challenge. You can challenge somebody and get extra points if you do it publicly, like on Facebook, via haiku. So, and then the responder, the accepting the challenge with a haiku will get you a point. So that's how 2 people can get an extra like sportsmanship point for the event. So we challenged each other. He challenged me and I accepted. We had a really fun game. We played. What was the game? I want to say it was Dominate, but I don't know if that was the case. Yeah, maybe it was Dominate. I think it might have been. So he brought like 2 regiments of Scorchwings, 2 greater air elementals, 2 Shambler regiments, one I think uh, Earth Golem or Earth Elemental horde, 2 Fire Elemental hordes, 2 Tree Herders. One was the Wilt Father, the Druid with the Rings of Harmony, so you can double cast. Um, Might have been a couple of other things that I'm not recalling exactly, but that was the gist of his list. He ended up scouting out on me. I believe he got the opportunity to go first. What it basically came down to was he had a air elemental that tried to race down my side. I had Slick Sneer, and by the way, guys, sorry, let me go over my list real quick too. So I brought the formation. I'm playing Varangur again, 2,300 points. I brought the formation with the 2 nimble cavalry archers. One had Orbitarian Presence, the other had Drunken Ram. Slick Sneer, the hero cav, had the Snow Fox and Axe the Giant Slayer. Then I brought 2 Sons of Korgans with the Brutal upgrade. Oh, and the Slick Sneer had the Aura Brutal and all that stuff. So he's brutal too. The Sons of Korgan had J Boots and one had Brute Sharpness. I brought 2 Hearthguard regiments with no items, 3 Snow Fox regiments, no items, a Dragon regiment, no items, Magus with Lightning Bolt, 4 Bane Chant, 2 Inspiring Talisman, Krufnir, and I think that was it. I had 14 drops, and then the Samurai, which the Samurai helped a lot because he's an extra source of, I think, very inspiring. Anyways, so he had the air elementals trying to go down my flanks. I put a Snow Fox regiment and a Nimble Cab down one side to kind of fight off some Scorchwings and his air elemental, and then the other one flew down my flank. And Slicksneer I was able to basically like sidestep and back up my whole army around to where Slicksneer could do a individual reposition and then charge it. I think my turn 1. He charged it and I popped it. It was crazy. He rolled basically like max damage and everything, plus the brutal 2. Boom, boom, got it. And it was, we were like, okay, cool. I own that flank now. I have control over that whole flank. The other thing was he was, I really liked his list too. It's been a while. Oh, it's been a while. Sorry, that was an inside joke for those who were on the trip. He also had a Pegasus. It's been a while since I've played Forces of Nature against them or as them. I chose Kaiju Slayer for my Samurai objective. I think he chose Messenger. And what ended up happening was I think he just wasn't aggressive enough with his Scorchwings and his Air Elementals, and the positioning kind of caught him off. Because I was able to shoot and kill the Scorchwings off the board with my Nimble Cav. And their threat's only 18. His Scorchwings are speed 10. I think as soon as they're about to die from shooting, he should just be diving them into me and trying to kill me. And the air elementals kind of like, once the Scorchwings got gunked up, I was starting to threat the last air elemental and position around to where, excuse me guys, position around where I was coming on flanks. So I basically ended up swallowing him up because I won the flanks and we were playing Dominate. So he had to be in the middle. Now to boot, I had gotten some lucky charges. I will say that. I had a Huskarl unit, I think, I want to say it might have been both, I can't remember, but they were hindered charging the Wilt Father and popped him in a single turn, which is still a pretty big deal. I'm looking at 40 attacks on 4s and 4s. So, that should come out to like 10 wounds. And so, because it's, 40 attacks on 4s goes to 20, wounding on 4s goes to 10, and I was able to pop the Wilt Father. So it was super lucky that happened as well. I think by the end of the game, he only ended up with his Samurai and his Ring of Harmony Druid. I can't recall exactly. I ended up winning that game 22-2. The max scoring was 24 because of the Samurai objectives. And it was a rough go. But hey, I honestly, I'll be open about this. I gave him my number 1 game vote. I don't think I've had that much fun playing Kings in a while. That's hard to say too, because sports is always so hard with Kings of War because everybody's very cool. But I had a really good time against Robert, and both armies looked beautiful. I thought his army was gorgeous, and that's shout out to him and Travis, his buddy. They do a company called Lair, and they do 3D printing and army painting. Both of them did an amazing job with their stuff, and like that company's doing really well. And Robert's army looks absolutely gorgeous. I was so happy that we had two beautiful armies paired up round one and getting to fight each other. So I had a good time with that. So game two, I played against Andrew Minton, which is a OK Crew clubmate, and he was also playing Varinger. His list was essentially my list, but he brought Magnild over Krufnir. He brought another Lord on foot instead of a Snow Fox, and I think he had 2 units of Draugr over Snow Foxes. So like we when we were talking about it, it was only like a 3 or 4 unit difference. So I mean that's pretty much the same list, and he didn't have as many magic items as I did. We were playing Control, and what ended up happening is this game was really weird. We're both playing a very much the same list. We both really want to get first turn. I got the first turn, and so because of that, it allowed me to. And I ended up real quick on the prior game with Robert Zimmerman. Samurai did kill the Pegasus, so I was able to get both points for the Samurai because he killed charged and killed a monster in like single combat. And so, anyways, he brought for his Samurai. I think it was to end the game with it alive, and if it ends the game alive with no wounds on it, he gets the extra second point. I can't recall what I brought. I want to say I brought. Oh no, I brought the ninja because there's some stuff that came up in my game three because I chose the ninja in game two. I'll get into that. I just didn't know we could pick it twice, so I found out that like halfway through game three we could have picked it twice. So I brought the ninja. He died pretty much immediately. He got absolutely just clapped by. I ended up letting him get charged by like a Cav Lord and the Nimble Cav that Andrew brought, but I won the first turn, and what that essentially let me do was start the chaff war, and whoever starts the chaff war will grind out and win. And so by the end of the game, his samurai lived, but I had gotten lucky and gotten some lightning bolts off on it. And so he was not able to live with full wounds, so he did not get 2 points. So the samurai points difference was 1, because I got 0. And that's why all the scoring was a differential of points. So I would have got 2 and he would have got 1. It would have been a difference of 1, which is like a +1 or something. 0 would have been +0. Difference of 2 would have been +2. Something like that. Anyways, so yeah. He ended up with his samurai alive and I think a lord. And I had gotten all but one zone. So I ended up getting... I think I ended up getting all the zones, actually. I'm trying to remember. I think I got all but one zone, so I didn't think I'd get 6 points. So I believe it was a 19-5 win for me. So pretty solid win. I'm coming into game 3 really, really well. A lot of points, ready to rock and roll. Yeah, because I was at 41. I ended up playing in game 3 against Matt Young and his Ogres. I've known Matt for a long time, for several years now. He's a really awesome guy, great player. Just really wants to just chill and have a good game, right? And so now the issue for me is he was playing Ogres, and Ogres seemed to have my number. He brought 2 Boomer Hordes, 2 Siegebreaker Hordes, 2 Warrior Regiments, a Bully Horde, 3 Bully Heroes. He brought the Ninja, and then he brought 2 Shamans and Namnagrok. And I want to say that was it. But like I think he even outdropped me. It was crazy. Like it was gross. Oh yeah, and 3 blasters. He brought 3 blaster cards. Then this game was so rough. We played I believe it was Smoke and Mirrors. No, it was Robin Ransack, I think is what it was. It's the scenario where it's basically pillage, but whoever's controlling the point at the end of the turn can burn it. And then there's 7 objectives. We place 3 each, and there's one in the dead center that can't be burned. So that way there's no way to like burn all the tokens and then tie the game on 0-0. There's always going to be at least 1 point to win, and then at that point it becomes dominate basically. Well, Yeah, this game was really rough. I got first turn, I believe, moved up, did some shooting. I was outpacing him on most of the engagements. I ended up doing, I believe it was the what was the samurai I picked? I don't remember. I don't remember what samurai I picked. Oh, I picked the one where he needed to stay alive or stay alive with no wounds on him. That didn't happen. He died, but he did kill my opponent's ninja before he could score any points. So my samurai charged the ninja, killed the ninja, which was awesome. Matt did a just absolute badass Michelangelo from the Ninja Turtles eating a slice of pizza ninja, and he ended up winning best samurai, which I thought was awesome. Good for him. It was a really good looking piece. Painted it really well. And it was just a fun character. And he played the ninja every game, he said. He played the ninja every game because it was Michelangelo. And I was like, that is awesome. So we got through, I think it was like to turn 3, and charges happened. I was charging some siege breakers, which I knew weren't going to break immediately, but I thought I could wear them down. He was just shooting the absolute mess out of Sons of Korgans. I was getting wavered. I was just not having a good show of it because he was just cracking my back with shooting. Because even though I cannot threat him in the charge, I'm still going to have to take about a turn or two to move up the board and get shot at. And so the thing that happened that was probably the worst thing, and I feel like it's an anomaly of dice, but I charged his warrior regiments, mind you, not hordes, with Huskarls, and did not break them at all. He healed them back up with Drain Life. I lost both my Huskarls. I then charged the warriors again with Sons, I believe, Sons of Korgans and whatnot. Didn't kill them again. Again, regiments. He then heals them back up with Drain Life. I lose all my stuff. I ended the game with only a Tundra Wolf regiment, Slicksneer, and a Draga regiment. And I killed, if we're not counting blasters, because I don't count blasters because they charge me and die. That's their rule, is that they attack in melee. At the end of melee, they die. They blow up. I killed his ninja, and I think it was just one Siegebreaker horde. Yeah, I mean, I think I only killed 2 units. I'm trying to remember his trade, but like I remember saying it was 2 units, because he was adamant about like, well, no, you killed the ninja. To me, I don't really know that I count the ninja either, but he left me with 3 units on the table, and I only killed 2. Now, what I did do, which is kind of cheeky, but it's in the rules, is as soon as I was losing, I burned every token. I burnt every token I controlled, and I left him with 1 he could actually go get. So I made sure to try and limit his win as best as I could. He got exactly 1,500 point difference on me to get the +3 for attrition. I lost the game 18-6, I believe. It was a really rough game. To do those charges and still never kill the units that got me is a rough deal. And it's also like, I don't think it's statistically likely. But, I mean, I guess dice happens, right? So, round 4, I'm going up against Richard Comstock. Oh, and I do want to also, real quick on Matt. Sorry, guys. Stuff is still fresh, so it's popping up and out of my mind here. Matt could tell I was also kind of bummed out, especially after the second turn of me not breaking his softest unit on the table. And he was like, "Hey man, it's time. It's time to do." I think he was like, "It's beer o'clock" or something like that. He said, "It's time for beers," and he's like, "Come on, let's stop. Let's go get beers." And he bought me 2 pints of Dallas Blonde, which he's a super awesome guy. Like he's not in this to like, win at all cost and beat ass. And so, he wanted to make sure that I had a good time still, despite the fact that like, and I'm not, and Matt, I don't know if you're ever gonna see this, like I was never at any point upset with you. I do think ogres are kind of cheesy. I'm not gonna shame anybody for bringing that. Whenever goblins were at the peak and everybody was dogging them, I never bad sports vote somebody for their list. That's not fair to me. The game allows it, so it's what you're doing with the list and how you act with your opponent, to me, that makes the difference. And you were awesome the whole time, man. And I want to make sure I'm absolutely clear on that. I know I razzed you a little bit. I think there might have been some razzing going on, and that was just me razzing. I don't want you to think that I was um, meaning any of that. I was definitely not upset you. I was upset. That was for sure. I'm not gonna lie about that. Because I mean it was just like holy crap. I'm not even getting to play the game right now. I'm like when dice happen like that, it's like I could have just skipped my turn, I guess then. And so I really appreciate your kindness on that and how uh, you chose to act on that. You were like, let's go get some beers, and so I really appreciate that, man. That was really cool of you. And I got to shout out the Kings community. I feel like I do this every episode, but I don't care. The Kings community is phenomenal. Kings of War has got to be one of the coolest gaming communities I've ever been a part of. And this is every game, man. Like every game that I have that something like this might happen. It might happen to my opponent or it might happen to me, and I feel like both sides immediately are like, "Hey, man, I'm sorry, dude. I totally get it. Let's try to make the best of this." And it's never like I'm never upset with my opponents. I've definitely been playing like 40k or Legion or something and been upset with my opponents. So like, you're actually a dick, man. Like you're an asshole. Like, and I could be winning and still say that. This is just an unfortunate turn of dice, and we were able to recover the unfortunate game state with laughter, alcohol, and some really fun banter. So, and Matt and I have like we've got a history together, and I think that helps with it too because Matt's definitely seen me grow a lot. I think as a person, knowing me for several years, and he's helped me in some of my drunken states, and he's a really cool guy. So I was actually, and what was also crazy, I don't think we ever got to play before. So I was really stoked that we got to play. But anyways, enough ranting. I'm super thankful for that though, Matt. You're a really cool guy, and I appreciate you helping try to bring up my spirits after what was going on. So Richard and I were game 4. Richard Comstock, and he was playing EOD, and the mission was push. Now, push, in my opinion, is a pretty solid mission for EOD because they're very tanky. They also can just kind of throw their tokens on the monolith and it just never dies. And it's also the only thing in their army that's able to at the double, so it makes sense. Well, not the only thing, but typically it's their best thing in the army that can at the double. So it's a really good target, but it's also like defense 5 and like dash 17 or whatever, and there's tons of heal and stuff in the army, and it's blocked off by walls of mummies and Showbeck, and here's my dash 18 defense 5 regeneration unit that's going to just sit in front of the monolith and you'll never get to it. And he ended up doing that. He ended up putting the tokens on the monolith. And then what was he chose the ninja for his samurai. I think I did too. I'm pretty sure I did too. Because what ended up happening was the way we deployed out was he basically played on 2/3 of the table, and I just mirrored that. And then the last thing I did was threw a Draugr unit on the far end where nobody was playing, and I threw my samurai over there too to bodyguard them. And I put all my tokens on those Draugr. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to throw my whole army at your army, and while that's going on, I'm going to sneak these Draugr down the side of the board and get 6 points. Because the way push works is you get a point for each token you control at the end of the game on a unit. They're a loot token, so you carry them. And then if they're on the opponent's half the board, you get double points. So I had a Draugr unit sneak down the side of the board with my samurai, who became a ninja. And he picked the ninja, and he tried to counter it. And I basically had my Draugr hiding behind a hill, because if I made a single move the last turn of the game, they would make it over the line and be safe. And then I had my samurai standing on top of the hill, and it was like, okay, we have the same threat range. I will not move. If you ever get closer to my Draugr than I would like you to, I will then charge you and kill your ninja. And so that's a big, it basically kind of negated our possibilities for us to get samurai scoring, but it helped me score 6 points on the mission. And I did that. I just ran them down the board and got 6 points. Now, the other thing is, there's also a token in the middle of the board that's a loot token to help the tiebreaker. So that way there's no, you're like, oh, we both just raced across the board and got 6 points. There's a seventh viable point there. I got it first, and I basically sent my whole army crashing up into his, grabbed the token, and then just backed up every single turn. Well, we did that. We got all the way to turn 6, and all I had left alive at the end of my 6, or at the end of the 6th turn altogether, I went first, was a Huskarl regiment with the token, the middle token, my Draugr across the board with 6 tokens, my Ninja, and a Magus with Inspiring. He lost a Scavenger regiment and a Mummy troop. He basically tabled me. And this game felt very much like the game against Matt. And it sucked because like he got max attrition points too. I could not kill anything. I just couldn't do it. I would send in my best units into his wall and they would just die. And I mean, and units that honestly should have killed stuff. And I even had Shobik sitting at, I think it was 11 wounds, charged granted, mind you, they were devastated. I sent a Sons of Korgan unit in that had Ruler Sharpness, so they're hitting on 2s, wounding on 5s with 9 attacks, and Brutal, do a couple wounds, and I still didn't kill Shobik. And I was like, holy crap, man, you have 12 wounds already. And then if I do 1, that's puts you 13, and then Brutal, I need 4s twice at the worst. So, and I failed it. And then that was, I remember what happened. I double 1s, and I Dojo rerolled and rolled into 1 again. So I didn't kill Shobik, and then I just basically lost everything. Now, the payoff for me losing my whole army was I jammed him up so bad that he was not able to get the monolith with all the tokens across the board. So he was, at the end of the game, at the end of turn 6, it was going to be 6 points for my Draugr, 7th point for my Huskarls carrying the token, to his 3. We rolled for the 7. He got the 7, made it across the table, and my Huskarls needed to survive a single charge to Enslaved Guardians. I could not get out of their threat. I needed to survive a single charge from some Enslaved Guardians, and he charged me and one-shot them and took the token back. So it went from a 7-3 for me to a 8, because he gets, now it's on my table, he gets 2 more points from it, to an 8-6. And so I think the overall score was a 7-18, or no, a 7-17. So not a horrible loss, but dang, like it's crazy how a single die roll basically changed the outcome of that game. So, and I don't think there was anything else different I could have done. I think my strategy was solid and clear. I needed to just run in and like charge stuff and delete it, or try to jam, and that's what I did. So my game 5, last game of the event, 2-2 at this point. I got to play against Rick Hoy and his Goblins. I've known Rick for a long time as well, but we never got to play, so it was really cool we got to do that. We were playing, I believe it was Pillage. Oh, no, it was Fool's Gold, which is we put tokens down, and then they become pillage markers, essentially. And each one of them is worth a certain amount of points, but we don't know. Like, we put the tokens down face down, and then at the end of turn 3, all the tokens get revealed to see how much they're worth. So we only know what like half the tokens are, and I think there's 5. It's 2 0s, 2 1s, and a 2. So 5 for each of us. And so I only know what 5 of the tokens are. Well, what ended up happening in that game was, and man, his army was pretty slick. It was a whole bunch of the like Mogwins and Fleabag Riders of the formation. So really fast army, all nimble. It was an all cav army. What I ended up doing was I had to take the brunt of some charges. Because I knew he was going to outpace me. So I threw my army a little bit out up there, but tried to make it to where the charges would be hindered. And so I was like, all right, I've got to make it to where these hindered charges into my defense 5 against his like Thunder 1 armies are going to be, or his like Thunder 2 armies down to Thunder 1 are going to be not good charges. Now he is a solid player, was able to sneak a horde of Fleabags into my army, and I did not catch it, and he had J-boots on him, popped it, and somehow a Sons of Korgan unit got charged by a whole horde of these cavalry and survived. And they even got Bane chanted. And then from there, he sent like 4 units in. I immediately turned around and killed like everything. And then I was also able to shoot since his defense of his army is like 4 at best. My shooting was actually also really strong because I was able to move my shooting cav up into his Mogwins, which were only threat 15 at max. They're speed 6 wild charge D3. I was able to move them up, shoot, do a few wounds, move up, shoot, do a few wounds, kill you. All right, next turn, do the same thing. And then like I was able to just start picking off units. It was the only game of the event that we didn't get to finish, but we did get through turn 6. We just didn't get a chance for turn 7. But by then he only had 2 individuals alive, and I had scored, or he had 2 individuals alive and a regiment scoring way off in the corner that I wasn't going to get to anyways. And I think I ended up scoring, I think it was 6-1. I had both 2s, 2 1s, and then he had, no, it was 7-1. Yeah. So it was a crazy game. It could have been honestly anybody's game because of how those charges went. If he would have broke through my line and Grony Stark and his samurai was trying to get messenger, and I was trying to get I think I was also trying to get messenger, and he ended up getting his samurai points. My samurai died, but there were some definitely moments where I got really lucky that his dice didn't go super well for him. And the other thing about his army being so soft is stuff like my snow foxes actually can kill his guys. And the other thing too is his formation. If he rolls a 6, he gets an extra hit, but he does a wound to himself. So he's got all these units running around really peppered, and I can throw a hero into a random unit, kill him. Snow fox into a random unit, kill it. Shoot him with some archers or a lightning bolt and do a couple wounds, randomly kill it. And I think that was where I had the advantage, was since he didn't break anything on that initial hit, everything was then fragilized, and I was able to come back and clean it up. So he played it really well. I feel like the horde 100% should have broke some stuff, and at that point, I'm looking at a giant horde of goblins in my face, and I don't really know what to do. And I think I got pretty lucky on that. Now, I don't know if that would have been, a total swing to where he wins the game, but it would have been more of a game for sure. So the other thing I did is I had my Thunderwolves go racing down the flank to where I could just turn around and like Pac-Man eat down his line. And so he had a slasher where I basically boxed the slasher into where if he looked at the Thunderwolves, he'd be getting flanked by potentially Krufnir and some Nimble Cav, or he's going to get flanked by, he can back up and be out of threat of them, but get flanked by the Thunderwolves. And the Thunderwolves, he decided to go for that option, give up one flank rather than multiple charges, which I agree with. And the Thunderwolves just ate him. There's 36 attacks, winning on 4s, hitting on 3s, winning on 4s, just ate him up, just got him. So, yeah, the game was crazy. It kind of just broke at the end there after I got some pretty hot rolls, and Rick's dice betrayed him a little bit. But anyways, this video has gone a little longer than some of the other ones, so apologize for that, guys. There's just been a lot to talk about. This is one of my, I feel like, harder place to, ran events. The Texas guys are really good, and I feel like I had to earn every point I got, and it was a really good time. I was happy to have that much of a challenge, and to think that I was basically a die roll from beating Richard and having a chance to win it all. Because yeah, Richard, congratulations, by the way, he won the whole thing. He got best overall, and so it's really cool to think that like I was good enough to take it to a die roll to win the whole event. So that's an encouraging thought. And I tied for 6th in battle overall, which is, like, let's be honest here, like, battle is where I'm struggling the most. Like, I can do the hobby soft score stuff all day, but I ended up getting 10th overall, I believe it was, out of 34, which top third, I'll take that. 3-2, pretty much, you're going to always place top third, so unless you just have really bad sports and hobby. But sixth in battle is really what I tied for 6th in battle is really what I was happy with. So congrats again to Richard. Also want to give a huge shout out to Jordan Braun for the Logs team. He was the, I believe, best general. Dude only lost to Richard best overall by 1 point. And so that's a testament to Richard because Jordan is amazing. Jordan's really good. The whole Logs team, that's their team. I don't know what it stands for. Those guys put up the numbers constantly. So congrats to Richard for scooting that point through. But that's definitely not to take away anything from Jordan. Super, super good performance, man, especially with Trident Realms. I feel like that army, a lot of people sleep on it. And now that it's won Masters, you got second at dojo with it. It's a solid army, and so really happy to see that. So happy to have met everybody that I did and play against. And that was actually something else too. Is I had known all the guys I had played against for years, and I just had never played any of them. So that was really cool to finally check that off the box and get to play against those guys. So, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll be putting up pictures and stuff throughout the video as well. You've already seen those, and then I'll put this video up as soon as I can. Otherwise, yeah, you guys have a good one. Bye.